Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. On today's episode, we're recapping our experience at Fan Expo Canada 2022. All this and everything else that happened this week in Geek.
Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace.
Hey, it's Nate, and if you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast celebrating the world of movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things geek-centric. Joining me for this week in Geek, he's the Vecna to my Maxine, and he loves to read layered butter magazines. He's Justin the Juice Lawrence.
What up? How you doing?
Good, man. I've always thought of you as a big lump with knobs, so you got the juice.
I thought you were talking about yourself there. Jeez. Huh?
Hey, listen, I love a good juice, and when I tried it with layered butter, everything changed. But next up, she brings the geekiness a la carte while she's brewing brews and buying all your art. She's Megan, mother of dragons, Clara.
Oh, and I did buy a lot of art.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. We'll be chatting about Artist Alley and all the incredible artwork we saw. But last but certainly not least, he'll thrash his hair like Eddie, playing D&D with you and me, all while explaining Thor's family tree. He's Uncle Darcy Hudson.
I am an uncle now. That actually is applicable.
Hey!
Right? Oh, I wanted to kind of like kick it off there. Of course, we're sad we're not able to be joined by the wonderful Kevin, first of his name, king of the handles, was not able to join us because he was off supporting his queen. She gave birth to the heir to the throne, of course, Princess Robbie Hudson. And so before we dive in, I just want to say all of us at Geekcentric want to wish him and Sarah a huge congratulations. And congratulations to you, Darcy, on unclehood. How are you feeling as an uncle today?
Well, I've only seen her just the one time because, going to a con, don't really want to go from a bunch of people to a newborn baby. So
right.
I'm distancing myself for now, but from everything I hear, she's doing well. And we're all super stoked to have a new little one to dote on.
Oh, and she's so super cute and so excited to get her on the podcast someday. Pretty soon, I'm pretty sure we could probably get her on.
Her first words will be on the podcast for sure.
Yeah, her first words, welcome back to the Geekcentric podcast. I can't wait, dude. I mean, it's going to be fantastic. But listen, let's get into Fan Expo Canada 2022. I want to start off actually with Megan. This wasn't just your first Fan Expo. This was your first convention. Am I getting that correct?
That is correct. First ever.
And how did you find it?
Well, I am one who likes my space, and I didn't have a lot of that. But I think that's sort of what you anticipate when you go to a con, especially pre-pandemic. That's just what they were. It was about everybody being there and getting together and cosplaying and doing all these crazy, cool, nerdy things and, meeting your community that shares the same kind of likes that you have. So all of that was really awesome. One of the pluses, even though it was so packed full of people, was that everyone was pretty kind. Like, nobody was really pushy or shovey, and if they accidentally did, they would turn around and say, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Very Canadian of us.
We are in Canada,
yeah, but I did.
How do
all
you
in
con
all,
in Canada? You apologize. You apologize profusely.
Yes, yeah. Even if you were just standing there.
Exactly. Oh, I'm sorry.
But all in all, I really had an absolute blast. It was so much fun to be there.
Yeah, I can attest to the sort of shock and awe with how many people were actually there, and your personal space being completely voided, especially Saturday. I know you joined us Sunday, but Saturday was the busiest day at the con, and it was a little overwhelming, and especially coming off of a 2-year pandemic, respecting space. Even last year's Fan Expo, it was busy, but it was not this busy. And yeah, you definitely felt it. It was like you're pointing out. It was a pro and con. It was so great to see everyone there celebrating. Everyone was kind and friendly. No one was, as you said, pushy or aggressive. So that's really great. Given you never know these days with the way the world is. But everyone was really in their fandom and celebrating together, and you could see people connecting and community breeding. So it was great. It was great for that. But it was a lot of people in that convention, which makes me wonder if the Metro Toronto Convention Center is still an adequate facility for Fan Expo, and if it needs to relocate, because it was busy. It was very busy.
Well, I think it's interesting because we obviously did review Fan Expo the last time we went, which I guess was last year, right? And just how going during sort of the pandemic being a lot more active, it was absolutely spaced out. As far as roaming the floor was concerned, it was beautiful. We were able to really, take our time and walk around. There just wasn't really anything to do, and no one was there, both from as fans, but also from talent and people to see. So it was one of those things where we kind of came away with it really feeling like we didn't really attend a Fan Expo. There was no seating at panels; it was standing only, that sort of thing. So coming into this, there was a much sort of more bombastic. There were like some of the companies actually came out. We got Ubisoft was there, and they had an installation, and eBay had an installation there, and I know that there were so many voice actors and big celebrities and what have you. So it was nice to sort of see kind of the Fan Expo at its fullest, but seeing the convention hall at its literal fullest was not that great.
Yeah, last year was definitely like Fan Expo Light. I think that's what we referred to it as, because it was just a lighter version. There were no large vendors, and this year was the same thing. There were no large vendors. There was no Hasbro, there was no Lego, there was no EB or now GameStop that had a presence there. It was eBay. And
which was weird.
Which was weird. And Ubisoft had a presence, which I get, but Nintendo's presence was just a table. Like in 2019 when we went, and I believe in 2018, they had a full-on section where you could game and enjoy the experience, and it just felt whittled down. So it was packed. There was a lot of things, and I think you're absolutely right. The drive for this year was celebrities, was this idea of bringing in talent to celebrate, because last year there were so many cancellations, especially last minute, especially with everything that was still going on with the pandemic and people having to quarantine and isolate for X amount of period of time. Like they would be coming into Canada for a weekend, but maybe having to stay for like 14 days or something like that based on the rules and restrictions at the time. I can't recall, but there was a lot of reasons for celebrities to not want to venture to Toronto for this convention. So this year they went buck and they booked so many people, which we'll talk about, and it was great, but that seemed like it was the focus this year was definitely having that talent showcased.
Yeah, I mean, they had a good group of Stranger Things folks there, as well as all four Hobbits: Elijah Wood, Sean Astin, Billy Boyd, and Dominic Monaghan. And so
a reunion show.
Yeah, those
they
were
did a reunion show.
The big draws, I think, for a lot of folks, and I think it's crazy how much time they were able to give to fans, which was really, really fantastic. And again, there are a lot of really great things about the con. Obviously, the focusing on how busy and almost feeling oversold at times, where it sort of just felt like you're going against the capacity. I think honestly, I personally wouldn't have a problem with limiting the ticket sales, and obviously make as much money that way. But I don't really care. Charge a little extra if you want. I'll pay for it if it means I get a better experience.
Yeah, I think this all kind of comes back to what Justin mentioned earlier about the Metro Convention Center being kind of outdated for this size of event now, because I mean the layout is probably one of the worst layouts I've ever seen, where you have to go four floors down on either side in either building with only one connection point between the two at the fourth floor. It's so like you have to go so many escalators and cram into so many small spaces that they really aren't designed for these massive flows of people to go through. So that's where it definitely felt overcrowded and oversold, is when you're trying to move between building to building. So again, I'm on Justin's page, where I think that there are other locations or venues in Toronto that could probably serve the same purpose and have better traffic flow, and then to me that'll make it feel a lot less busy, as if it's easier to get across or get between the two buildings.
I think that was the biggest sort of maybe the toughest moment for myself, and as well as I think for you as well, Megan, like when there was a moment where we split up, and I made the mistake, I'll admit it, of saying we're going to travel indoors because I like the AC and I didn't want to walk around the entire convention hall outside. But Justin and Darcy went out, and they made it in like 10 minutes, if that. It took us about 35 minutes, I think, for us to literally get to an escalator and then get down to the other building. So from one to the other. So honestly, if you know, we can kind of sprinkle advice in and throughout this podcast, but for those listening who are interested in going to Fan Expo, if it's going to be as busy next year as it was this year, maybe on this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. On the Thursday, you might be able to get away with going back and forth, but on the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you might have to pick your panels. You might have to sort of say, we're spending all day in this building and then in the other building, or end your day at one of the other buildings, or something along those lines, because to move back and forth is seemingly impossible unless you want to spend your entire day waiting to go on an escalator.
And that's the other thing too, is how they had things orchestrated across the convention. Like you said, we learned pretty quick, I think, on Saturday that we were just going to do the first part of the day in the North building because there was panels there that we wanted to see, and then we would migrate to the South building, do what we wanted to there, and then call it, right? And it ended up getting super busy as the day went on, and the South building was extremely packed. But I think the way things are laid out could also benefit from a little, imagination in terms of where things are put. Darcy and I were talking offline on our way back about how Artist Alley should really be in the North building, where the autographs are happening and photo ops are happening, and allow the room for the art to be seen, because Artist Alley this year felt overly congested and so narrow that you really couldn't interact with the art. Like it is a gallery space. It is a shop, but you should be able to showcase your work. And it was just so congested in terms of how you were maneuvering. I felt like I missed a lot. And if I was standing there, I felt like, I'm blocking. I have to keep moving. So it's built in a way where it's just kind of like hoarding traffic in one direction or the other, but you're not really interacting with the art. So I found it at times difficult in the Artist Alley. So I feel like giving it more space, giving it more room for it to breathe a little bit more, I think that would have been better in the North building, and keep the South building to just buying stuff, shopping, collect it all together, if that makes sense. I don't know. We've been doing this enough that we know.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Again, it's my first con, but I've been to art shows and I've been to craft shows where the whole part of it, or the whole point of it, is to be in this giant room with a bunch of aisles. The aisles are big enough to have like a road and a sidewalk. And the road shuffles people in and out of the aisles, but you can step out of those aisles into the sort of like viewing space where you can stand at a booth, look at what they offer, talk to the artist or creator of whatever you're seeing, have a conversation, and then step back into traffic when you're ready to go to the next thing. And I feel like I probably missed like 5, 6, maybe 8 aisles because I looked down them and there was just no space to even enter, and nobody was moving. So I could have missed an artist that I maybe would have bought a print from or enjoyed their artwork and taken their business card. So I think you're totally right. The North building, they even have separate floors that are at least a little easier to access, giving artists more space to share their work.
And I think it does a disservice to those artists. And,
Exactly.
we've been learning through friends of ours who are artists about the booth spaces costing more and more and more. And it's one of those things where you want to give respect to those people who are, I think Artist Alley is a big draw for the convention itself. And so I think they deserve a good amount of space, right? Obviously, it's not as big of a draw as the celebrity talent and the photo ops and the signatures, but still, I think it's only fair if you're going to charge that much for a booth space to give a good amount of time. Because I think even near we only went through about half of Artist Alley before we sort of just said, hey, we gotta
It's
go
too much.
go to the end. We just skip to the end of the area to find one of our friends who had a booth there, and shout out to Funky Punky Designs,
Woo-woo.
Lisa, for providing us with some dope ass pins. But But even talking to her, it was like it felt like there were like waves of human beings like behind our back, like trying to pull
Just
us into
crashing
the ocean,
against you.
crashing into us as we were just trying to have a conversation with our friend and support her. So yeah, I definitely think that's a negative to it. But I will say it's always a fantastic time to be able to go and to connect with like-minded people who love the things you do. I managed to run into a bunch of friends who, I know from working in Ontario and got to see them just randomly at different times, and it was really fun to just see them and their families and what have you. So, I think it's at its core, Fan Expo is such a wonderful, brilliant thing. But there is definitely a lot that needs to maybe be, I'd say, focused in a little bit more to make it an even better experience.
Yeah. There's more opportunities to better the experience, 100%. Which is why we're talking about it in a very passionate way. And like you said, Artist Alley was a huge draw for us. We actually spent most of our time there, and really connecting with people there rather than actually anywhere else. In a lot of regards, we spent a lot of time in panels, but Artist Alley was tons of fun. It was great to see what art we could in that space, and that's why I would love it to be expanded and to be treated with the respect that you're speaking of, Nate. Where it's allowing these artists, if they are spending that money, to have a space that allows them to showcase that work and sell that work, because it's a win-win for everyone that's involved on Fan Expo. So I think the experience itself has a lot of opportunities to better itself. It's almost there. I think 2019 was probably one of the best experiences, just because it had a good balance of large vendors with small vendors, and they were all pocketed in an area, so everyone was getting the exposure and the balance of where things were. And the Artist Alley didn't feel as tightly packed. It was a little bit more spread out, because even this year I was just like, this feels tighter than usual. Right. So yeah,
man. I think it's just a matter of, I wish I could have been there for the Thursday that you guys were there for, just to even hit the floor and see what it was like. Just, in this, I guess, not really post-pandemic, but we'll call it further along pandemic version of the Fan Expo experience. But beyond roaming the floor, buying stuff, which we're going to talk about some stuff we bought maybe later on, but and of course checking out Artist Alley, we also had the chance to interview a bunch of local artists, which we're going to be posting that on our YouTube channel. And I wanted to take a moment just first of all to thank everyone, if you're listening to this, who let us, stop them on the super busy days of Saturday or Sunday, to let us chat with them, have an interview, ask them, questions about, because these are Canadian companies and startups and groups that are making some really incredible geeky stuff that we all love, and that's kind of a little tease. Obviously, we're going to have a YouTube video out or a bunch of YouTube videos out that are going to show off those interviews and those different companies. But we sort of shifted, because our original plan was this is our first year as press going, if that wasn't already clear enough, and we kind of had all these grandeur thoughts of who we'll be interviewing, and we tried to write up as many questions as we could, and I wrote like hundreds of questions for a bunch of people that we didn't get to really interact with, unfortunately. So hopefully we'll get to, I'm putting it out into the universe that we are going to get to interact. We're going to interact with them in the future in maybe even a different way that's not at a super busy convention, because at the end of the day, the convention is a fan first experience, and that's where that talent who we didn't get a chance to interview had to put their focus, and that's completely understandable. But there, it was just a little tricky for us going into it. We're getting our feet wet. So getting to shift gears and focus in on this, local talent and these incredible creators, I think was the right call. And I'm looking forward to seeing, kind of their reaction to our interviews that we managed to get with them.
Yeah, it's a collection of Canadian artists and groups that are working together in the geeky world, the stuff that we love. And I'm glad that we shifted gears, like you said, to focus on that, because we were, as we were saying, this is our first year as press, and we didn't know what to anticipate. So we aimed for the stars and got nothing. And decided to still make the best of it because we had press passes. And I think that in itself allowed people to feel a little bit more like, oh, okay, yeah, I will definitely give my time to work with Geekcentric and do an interview. So I think that in itself helped. And it did help for other situations about panels and getting access and stuff like that. And Touchwood was actually really great with trying to communicate with us what was possible, what wasn't possible. It was a little unclear. There's no perfect manual. There's no perfect setup for it. But I think, again, year one of doing this, and hopefully next year we'll cover it again. It was a learning experience. And it was a great learning experience. And I think, we'll only get better with how this process works because we are Geekcentric and we should be covering Fan Expo every year. So
yeah, I mean, listen, Fan Expo,
it's in our hometown, bro.
If you want us to be the official podcast of Fan Expo, just let us know. It's something we could do pretty easily, I think. But yeah, it was. I got a lot of. We talk a lot about this podcast and how we see it sort of transitioning moment to moment and step by step, and getting the ability for us in the last few years to get to do the things we get to do and speak to the people who make the things we love has been incredible. And I don't know, it makes me really, really happy and really, really stoked for what we do and what we're trying to do. And even this weekend, even though we didn't necessarily get to speak to some of the people we wanted to, the people that we did get to talk to, people like Steve from Retro Kid, or, even getting to stop by and speak with Modulicious Paul McHugh or Andrew at Layered Butter. I think it was just a lot of fun to be able to I get in touch with those folks who now, I hope, see us on a certain level where they do want to continue having conversations with us and do want to continue collaborating. I'm really stoked for all of that. But I wanted to kind of move right along here and get into talking a little bit about the panel experience. Now, as I said, I wasn't there for all 4 days. I joined on the Saturday, and then Megan, you joined us on the Sunday. So I wanted to kick it off to Darcy and Justin. What were the first few panels that you attended, and could you tell us about them?
Well, we only saw 2 panels on Friday, and the first panel we saw was with Troy Baker, with no, panel host. It was just him. The dude's super charismatic, man. Like he had the room eating out of his hand. He was interacting with everyone. He was moving around the stage. Very Giancarlo Esposito, but we'll get to that later. But he shared some really great insights about building his characters that he voices, that he's so well known for voicing in video games, such as Joel in The Last of Us. He spoke very obviously. A lot of people had questions in and around that game is with its re-release coming later this week, and even someone asked him to do an impersonation, which was funny, right, Darcy? Because I think it was in the panel itself. He when people ask him to do that, they don't understand the levels that he needs to go to get to that character. And when someone asked him to do Joel, he actually walked us through that process. So I thought it was actually kind of interesting. He was talking about what it was like working on the game and working with Neil Druckmann on the game and working on this specific moment that, by all standards, I think he said never actually made the final game. And it's just Joel telling a story. And the way he works his way to the character, and then he just delivers this like monologue, if you will. It was incredible. I just stopped recording and I was just mesmerized at his performance. It was a one-man show, and he did a really great job in that time, kind of having everyone very captivated.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was really cool too, because he also went into what it was like, voicing a character that already has such a distinct voice, such as the Joker. Like, everyone was going to compare him to Mark Hamill because for so many people, Mark Hamill is the Joker to them. So he said when he was approached with that role, he kind of didn't believe that it was happening and was just like, oh, they hated that. I'm going to get in so much trouble for doing this voice because it's not exactly like Mark Hamill. And then when eventually people come back to him saying like, look, we loved it. You just got to come in and do it. We want you to be our Joker. And how much how much that meant to him as someone who loves the original voice and was able to take it to another level or to a new place with his iteration of the character. So it was, again, really cool to see the insight behind his characters and how he gets to those places, like Justin was saying, to embody these characters and to grow with them as we play the games that we love.
Yeah, anytime I've seen Troy Baker speak, he's just a storyteller. He's incredible at just weaving a narrative and providing so much description for things. And I did get a chance to see a video from the panel that you guys attended online, thanks to all our wonderful friends in the industry alongside us also attending his press, posting stuff. And I got a chance to see him talking about his experience on the set for the HBO show The Last of Us, talking about the first time he ever saw Bella Ramsey as Ellie. And he just sort of
response.
He said it just hit him like how, you know, he's like, obviously he's seen some incredible cosplayers. He like literally called it out. He's like, who here's cosplaying as Ellie? And he's like counted like 5 different people cosplaying as Ellie. But he said, you know what, that it's phenomenal what you can do with cosplay. But seeing her and how she just turns to him and goes, hey, and then how it just hit him and he just had to take a beat and sit back and just take it in that he's like, this is Ellie. I'm seeing Ellie in real life. Had to be phenomenal.
It has me very excited to see who he is going to be playing in this series. It's great because I honestly I agree with you. He's a storyteller and he talked about his love for storytelling and how he would like to direct, and that's kind of the next thing he really wants to get into. And based on how he presented himself, how he conversed with everyone in that room, you can tell he has the capability of leading. And he even spoke about the idea that it's not about assuming control, it's about releasing and letting go so that others can take control. And you know, that is the key. And that's a very true statement, because you're never gonna control all parts of a production. You have to work with other people and collaborate and be open and see what they can do, right? So I think that's, I'm look forward to when we see something, whether it be a video game, a movie, maybe an episode of a TV series that's directed by Troy Baker. I'm interested in seeing what that's all about.
And I can't wait to have him on the podcast. Justin, who else did you guys get a chance to see on that first day?
I think we ended our panel day with Sean Astin. That was a great one. A bit different, obviously from Troy Baker, in that Sean Astin very much talked about his experience, but also the life that he's come to love with his family and his wife, and how important they play a part into the sort of generational work that he's done. And how he's kind of, you know, he's touched different generations through the numerous projects that he's worked on, and his kids' relationship with that. And it was touching. It was, he talked a lot. He definitely just, like, they gave him a mic and he just went. So it was very humbling, right? It came off very sincere, and I don't know, he feels like a Canadian, in all honesty. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he just the way he likes to share stories and talk about things. It's very Samwise too. Yeah. If anything.
Yeah. He also talked about, like, I mean, a lot of that personality, I think, comes from his upbringing, which he also spoke about, how despite being the son of 2, you know, already established people in the industry, he still grew up, and they wanted him to grow up as a normal kid. So he still went to school, even though he was just in the Goonies. And like, just later on, he was always very grounded and down to earth and family came first. So it's really cool to see how he brings that to, I mean, a lot of his characters seem to have that at the core is that they have a heart, and that family comes first to them. So it clearly connects with the actor, because he is family first and everything like that. You just want to give him a hug. He's just seems like a huggable guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you both for sharing the load. That was that's my Sam impression. For the first few panels. Did you guys check any other panels out before I joined you guys?
No, we did not. That's because, being our first time at press, we kind of weren't sure what that entitled us to. So for the first few days, me and Justin were kind of waiting in lines like everybody else. We realized that press kind of had that a bit of an advantage in that they could just kind of slip in. But at the same time, that gave us a lot of time to explore Artist's Alley and the floor on the Thursday when it was a lot quieter. So we got to see a lot of the floor, which was really cool. But looking back, I mean, we now know what comes with the press pass. So maybe we can get a bit more panels next year, hopefully.
I to your point, I don't know if it was allowed or if it was just the fact that they saw press and they were like, yeah, okay, it's okay, right? So it's like, okay, I was unclear about that, but there was something on our badge that does specify certain access in different places. But you're right, the first 2 days, Thursday and Friday, we're very much getting the lay of the land and connecting with a lot of those people in Artist Alley and kind of showing our face and, connecting with Layered Butter and getting to know them a little bit more leading up to inevitably the interview that we'll be posting later. But it was great to just connect and kind of peruse the show. I wish I didn't have a giant camera bag on my back the entire time, but at the same time, it worked out.
We got some great stuff out of it. And I think, even getting a chance to sit down and talk with Ken Lashley as well, Canadian comic book artist and legend, even though he kept denying that I called him a legend, was cool. But, it was fun because we got to talk to him and it felt, it sounds cheesy and corny, but it felt we're official. We are officially talking to Ken Lashley, where we've talked to him
Full
in the
circle.
past. Yeah, we've talked to him in the past as friends and just someone that we met on a plane one time coming back from San Diego Comic-Con to
Comic-Con.
Right, to talking to him on a more official capacity. And I know, again, as unprofessional as it sounds, I was flashing that badge all over the place. Every security guard we walk by, I'm like, I got the badge. Yeah,
he just held it up as he walked by people.
Yeah. He just random people. I just said, press.
He's going to the bathroom. Press. I need to.
I did get in early. I said I've got an interview in there with a toilet. But no, we had the opportunity to then, or I had the opportunity to then join you guys on the Saturday, and I think the first panel we hit up was Katie Sackhoff, and let's talk about Katie Sackhoff, of course, who of course everyone knows is Bo-Katan from both the animated series and Star Wars live action The Mandalorian. I want to just kind of shout out though, like, she is so honest. She doesn't filter her responses. She's super down to earth. She kept swearing, and then
nice.
And then as soon as she noticed there were kids in the audience, she's like, oh shit. Sorry, there's kids in the audience. And I think the guy who was doing the moderation for the panel was like, yeah, that's my daughter. Just absolutely phenomenal. She discussed herself being a mother and how she never understood the amount of love one can have of their mother until she played in the role. I believe she was talking about Starbuck at that time. No, who is she?
She was talking about her character in Revolutions.
In Revolutions.
The actress, the mother who leaves her child behind to save the world. Thing.
I might be a bit distracted just because I've got a note here that she also talked about how the YouTube algorithm can be tricked as long as you post something regarding tits and ass, which she talked about after someone brought up a YouTube video of her going into cryo freeze chamber or something like that with her friend, and so she talked about she just wanted to see what would happen if she posted a YouTube video of them in bikinis and what have you. So again, never held back, never but I think she also got to really lovely moments as well, where again she brought up the idea of motherhood and she started tearing up about her own child and different things like that. And what did you guys take away from the panel with Katie Sackhoff?
I think one of the coolest parts for me was when she was talking about why she's always kind of gravitated towards these sci-fi roles, and it's because she grew up on it. And I feel like that applies to a lot of us in that, maybe not my dad, but my brother showed me sci-fi when I was little, and I've loved it ever since. And I think it's really cool that her dad was that influence on her and drove her to take these roles, being like, I want to be a cool, badass lady in space. So that's why she's looking for these interesting roles. And I think it's really cool to see how that has driven her career. And again, family is everything, and it's really neat to see actors and actresses talk about how that, just leads them to take the roles that they do take. So it's cool.
Yeah, I secretly hope that the daughter that I will have in the fall will grow up to be someone like a Katie Sackhoff, who is obsessed with sci-fi and feels like she wants to very much live in that world. That's a hope. Obviously, she's going to be her own person, but I will be that person that will introduce you to those things. Slightly nudge her. Yeah, even fantasy and stuff like that. So I love the idea that that impression is left on her, as you're calling out, Darcy, and it being rooted to family. I think the one thing that all these panels have in common is a real human core to each of these people, because we see them on that pedestal, and we understand that they're up there, and we sometimes forget that they are still us. They are still human. Their life looks a little different. They do different things. And again, to hear Katie Sackhoff just talk about, the value and appreciation she has for her family and how that connects back to her characters. It's again another thing that connects back to Sean Astin and what he talks about and what we take away, and the idea that it just in a way is a driving force for them to do the best work that they can. I think that's great. Whenever we can learn those things, it helps to humanize and just ground these actors that we sometimes see as higher up, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I mean, I think the part that really stuck out to me regarding that was when she was asked about Grogu, and she's like, you guys, I have as much baby Grogu stuff as all of you do. Don't think for 1 second that just because I work with Grogu that I don't have all that Grogu stuff. And she brought up a day where she was working with Grogu. Apparently it takes 5 or 6 puppeteers to control Grogu. And apparently she says she has a similar reaction to Grogu as she does with her dogs, and that he's very real to her, and that she actually found herself talking to him one day where she was like, it's like, are you bored? Do you get bored? And he was kind of like emoting, and then she's like, sometimes I just get, I don't know, it gets me really pissed off. I get really mad. Do you ever get really mad? And he makes like a little like angry face, and she's like, in that moment she like got really freaked out, and she didn't realize that those puppeteers were listening to her talking without
and
just to this random puppet or to Grogu just sitting in the corner. So I don't know.
They were doing their job.
They were doing their job, but it was just funny because again, it just speaks to how realistic that animatronic is. That Grogu is a real thing to her. And the only other thing I wanted to shout out just on her time in The Mandalorian, she said this year on The Mandalorian, she kept dropping a lot of like just teases about like that she's obviously talking about season 3, but there were also a ton of times where she just kind of was like, yeah. People would ask stuff, she'd go, and just not say anything. But she did say one thing about her suit, which that she got 2 suits this year because one of them they created a pee hole for her suit, and that she was able to actually, because you have to imagine being in those suits on set all day, you're going to want to have to use the facilities, and so to have a hole that would do that, but apparently it didn't work.
It doesn't sound like it would work.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again,
good on them.
Again, Katie Sackhoff, an absolute gem.
She's so real. She's so
she's
down
to
so
earth,
real.
and just
That's
she's willing to
awesome.
talk about anything. So except for Star Wars spoilers, you won't get that out of her. Now we had the opportunity to go on an unexpected journey with Dominic Monaghan, who started off the panel. By the way, I believe this was the first panel that I attended that Sam Meggs, Canadian author Sam Meggs, managed to. She was facilitating the panel. She was moderating the panel. Shout out to her. She did such a phenomenal job with all the panels that we saw, just leading the conversation. And literally the first thing she starts talking to Dominic Monaghan about is like Magic the Gathering cards. And just like they just start off with like a super geeky conversation and how he's a huge gamer and he always plays, with him and Billy Boyd are always playing video games together. It was just, I don't know, it was great.
Yeah. Sam Eggs, I think, brought her own geeky connection to each of the panels that we saw her. She brought what she's passionately geeky about, and she connected it with the people that she was talking to, which I thought was great because we learned new things about Dominic Monaghan through this panel just from that conversation. Some stuff, obviously, if you're a hardcore fan, you would know he has an appreciation for all of these things. But for myself, I was pleasantly surprised to learn more about what his interests, obviously outside of starring in movies and playing the characters and whatnot, what he does and what he likes to do. So yeah, I think she did a great job. And yeah, he's another person that was completely down to earth and incredibly humbled to be there to kind of be able to share his time with fans. It's all about the fans, as he said. I believe in his panel, like it's about connecting with them. So I think it was so good to see him have that moment to at least sit and talk about his work and what he's done.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was really cool too because I mean we all know him from Lord of the Rings fame and even Lost and stuff like that. But he even went on and talked about his role in some of the docu-series that he's doing with nature and stuff like that, with wild things, and about how coming up he's going to be focusing on like an ocean wild things, almost like another documentary series where he's getting involved with the wildlife and all that stuff, which he seems very passionate about. And it was really cool just seeing him talk about what he's passionate about and what it is that makes him do these things and share them with the world. And again, very down to earth and very chill guy. It was a wicked panel.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool when he compared his time on Call of Duty to when they would film scenes. How apparently it's closer to doing a play where they only have to do it once. Where he asked like the game director of like, he was like, so if we get this, if we nail it the first time, that's it, we can go home by one. And apparently he's like, yeah. He's like, great. So most of the time he said they did nail a lot of the scenes that they shot with the blue dots on their face and the skin tight suits and what have you. So really, really cool stuff from that panel. And I'm a huge Lost fan. So the moment he brought up Charlie and he brought up the story about him going to the Oscars for Return of the King and how he just put some black Sharpie marker into the nail beds of his nails, and apparently, J.J. Abrams had saw his fingers on the telecast for the Oscars, and then called him up talking to his character of Charlie on Lost and be like, hey, you know what you did with your nails there? Yeah, keep that. We want that for Charlie. And it's just so cool to because that was such a defining little characteristic of Charlie.
Well, you see him do it.
Yeah,
you see him do
you
it.
literally see him do it in one of the first
Yeah.
episodes. So to kind of hear the origin of where that came from, and then it was just him, was really, really cool.
I love that his death is Charlie. Spoiler for Lost, if you haven't.
Oh my
seen
gosh,
it,
spoilers! Yeah, I mean, how old? That's like an old show.
His inevitable death in season 3. How it's still top 3 deaths on TV.
I think so.
That just really hit people.
Wow.
So I think that's cool. That's a cool thing to have, because it did emotionally resonate with everyone who loved that show, because Charlie was a little bit of everyone.
Yeah. You all, everybody. And then
You all, everybody.
You all, everybody.
Oh my
now
God.
Now we know the meaning of
That's
the
why-
song. That's it. Last thing I will quickly say with the panel with Dom Monaghan was, and it was kind of a through point for a lot of these panels. You can't, as much as there's a moderator, they don't really moderate the questions coming through during the Q&A portions of these panels. And let me tell you, if you've not experienced live cringe with some of the favorite people that are behind your favorite characters, go to a convention and go to some of these Q&A panels, because you'll experience it. There was one guy who just straight up was like, yo, so it's been, how long do you say? It's been 2 decades?
It's been 20 years.
It's been 20 years
it's been
since
20 years.
since you wrapped Lord of the Rings, since the end of Return of the King. Yeah. How are you coping with that? Was his question.
I have on video his reaction to that.
Oh
and
my
it is
gosh.
not pleasant.
No.
He is very unimpressed with that, and rightfully so. But that guy, again, we're gonna assume
he played it
positive
for
intent
laughs.
here.
He played it for laughs. He was very cordial about it. He didn't, he wasn't upset.
Yeah.
But he was.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
great.
I mean, him aside, some of the other cringy moments from the questions just come from the fact that these people going up there are talking to their idols. So I can kind of
They
understand
get
why they
nervous.
stumble and
Yeah.
fumble and get nervous and kind of ask some
Exactly.
pointless questions. But I mean, that's why I don't do it, because I know I'd be doing the same thing. So
You just want to talk to them. You just want to talk to them, right? Yeah,
they're so
yeah.
cool and they seem so down to earth that, of course, you're kind of like, oh God, how do I react to these people? So I mean, I feel for those people who have a hard time getting those questions out, and all the power to them for
at least getting up
stand
there.
up and
Absolutely.
and to ask that
Yeah.
question. It's really neat.
Yeah, I mean, again, I understand being nervous, but I think Meg, we won't say which panel, but there was a panel where somebody literally stood up and was reading from their phone their question, and then the person who they were asking the question to sort of like, oh yeah, I remember that, and then they would like not say anything. And then just go back to
Reading from the exact moment
from
they
the moment they
stopped
left
reading.
off. It was again, it's one of those things where with these Q&As, hopefully they'll find a way to moderate them. Because I mean, even at Star Wars Celebration, I was always asked whenever I would go up for a Q&A question, like, okay, what's your question? What are you going to ask? Because they want to make sure you're not going to say something stupid like, how are you coping with not being in Lord of the Rings for years? And then we ended that day with panels with, I think, honestly, my favorite panel of the day. It was so incredibly delightful. We ended the day by going to a voice acting panel led by Eric Bauza, who, if you don't know, is pretty much all of the Looney Tunes right now, or most of the Looney Tunes right now, along with Rob Paulson, the voice of, I mean, he's the voice of I guess, is he both Pinky
Yakko,
in the Brain?
Pinky.
He's Pinky.
No, Pinky.
He's Pinky.
Yakko.
He's Yakko. Absolutely incredible. And you hear it in his voice. Of course, Billy West, who is most commonly known as Fry on Futurama, but he's also played
Stimpy.
He played Stimpy.
He was the original Stimpy.
Right.
Yeah.
And we also got a chance to hear from Carolina Ravassa, who is, I believe she's a character, she plays Sombra in Overwatch. And so they did an incredible panel where, honestly, it was kind of a no-holds-barred panel where they just all went off. And, like, it was chaos the moment it started. They're just all talking over each other, but in, like, the best way possible because they're all doing their different character voices. And the way that they flowed through their conversation, there wasn't, like, a second of dropped audio. Like, there was no moment where like, they just went from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other, playing off each other so masterfully. You can tell that they're used to being in a booth and playing off of these characters where there can't really be any dead air.
Yeah, I think what was really cool is the fact that, you said Eric Bozzo is leading this panel, and I think you could really tell he was a big fan and idolizes the two guys sitting next to him, because the questions he's asking them are just like, he is so excited to get a chance to sit down and talk to these people and share what they know and how much he respects them. And then the really cool flip side of that was immediately Rob Paulson was like, you guys just got to know how talented this kid is. He came onto the scene and immediately was successful, and just, it was the respect went both ways on that stage, and everyone loved everyone up there, and no one had a bad thing to say about anyone up there. It was really cool seeing that sense of camaraderie that they brought to the stage. It was cool.
Yeah, it was awesome to see that he was such a huge fan of I think all three of them. And I mean, even at the end of it, he took a picture with them like any of us would want to do in that moment. And so, yeah, man, just again, we talk about the aspects of seeing these incredible talents on another level, but at the end of the day, they're also just big fans, and to see them also being fans of each other was really, really fun.
Yeah, and also just to have Carolina on this panel, I think she was a great addition to kind of show the future as well, of where voice acting is going, because you do have two veterans like Rob Paulson and Billy West there, and to have Eric and Carolina, these two are building the next generation of voice acting careers, and it's great to have them be able to converse with these veterans that have been doing it for so long and have built quite the career of, again, being some of the most influential characters in our adolescent and adult lives. Let's be real. So it's really cool to see that sense of community amongst them, and this idea of sharing, talking shop and sharing work stories and experiences, and talking about what it was like then versus what is it like now, and what it really does look like to be a voice actor in this generation, especially even as they talked about animation and the situations that seem to be going on with a lot of studios cutting animation, whereas, I
mean, they straight up brought up HBO dropping 30 plus animated series and how that can be pretty scary and really freaky, but they also talked about the evolution of voice acting and how it's really evolved into something that is a lot more accessible, in the sense of if you want to get started in it, and you don't, it used to be, I think Carolina was talking, like, she had to move to LA in order to actually do what she's doing, whereas now that's not necessarily the case. If you've got a good mic, Rob was saying, if you got a good mic, you've got a good computer, and you've got a good setup, you can record some self takes and put them out online and create a portfolio. And I just think that's fantastic. And he also did sort of, they kept giving a lot of advice for how to start as a voice actor.
Cool.
And it's awesome because, none of them are like, oh no, we got to keep all these secrets in because we don't want to replace ourselves. They're all just there to say, no, this is such a tight-knit community, and if you're good enough, you can be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was really neat because you mentioned that they were saying that, like, trying to say that they're not teachers, but there are courses out there, and they all of them talked up again another voice acting great, Steve Bloom, and his course. So I thought it was really neat that even amongst all the voice actors, there's such respect that they're not afraid to be like, I don't know what I'm talking about in terms of how I do what I do, but this guy does. So it was really cool to see that for sure.
And they shouted out the homie James Arnold Taylor as well, and his whole voice acting studio and what have you. So yeah, I think it was just such a really lovely conversation to overhear, and the way they ended it, you have to check out our Twitter to check it out. They
or Instagram.
They did a incredible cover of Hotline Bling by Drake in all of their characters, and it was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. So definitely go check that out on our socials, because it'll brighten your day. But speaking of brightening our day on a Sunday, the final day of the convention.
The Lord's Day.
The Lord's Day, some might say.
And it was.
Megan was able to join us, and we attended the great Reverend Giancarlo Esposito. And if you don't know what we're talking about, holy crap, dude. Like, this guy gets up on stage and you think, okay, we're going to see him talk about Gus Fring. We're going to see him talk about, Moff Gideon or whatever. Or we're going to hear him chat a little bit about, what it's like to be on the Mandalorian, hold the Darksaber and all this stuff. And he does do that for the first maybe 5 seconds of each question asked for him. And then he gets up and just like gives the most inspirational speech, like over and over and over again, to the point where like the audience was like left, and then like half a minute would go by, and then everyone starts like clapping like huge, and we were all so taken aback. He has such an incredible way of talking that's just so engrossing. You can see how it comes into his characters. Some of the things that he said, the villain isn't the villain in their mind. They are the fallen hero. They just missed the mark. Or things like respect yourself and demand that respect from others. Collaborate. And he went off on like a tangent on that. And then my favorite quote has to be, he literally like the room gets so quiet. He goes, "The way you do anything is the way you do everything." And I was like, what? Like, how is this man a real thing? Like, has he ever done motivational speaking before? Because he was incredible, dude.
I think, again, the way he talked and the characters he plays, it shows. He is a powerful person and has a presence, and all the characters that he's played have a presence. I think it is a symbol of his character, of who he is as a person. And I think what was great is that he answered the fandom questions, as you said, but then he got into like taking that time to instill some advice. And he was someone that I think really tried to remind people that he is a person too. That, again, that to acknowledge the fact that, you look at me and you see me on a pedestal, but I have the same life as you. I have the same quirks as you. I am the same person as you. It's just my life looks different in comparison. So I thought that was really great. And I think that what he was trying to do, obviously, and it came off a bit intense, was to take that time and really instill some value in something. Because I think he's also someone who is very activist driven, and he sees that there's things going on in the world that we ourselves can probably do better and fix, if you will, by collaboration, community, and the idea that he's there at Fan Expo talking about these things with community. It is a moment to just kind of connect and tap into that. Whether people are just going to be like, okay, here he goes, ranting on, or if you're actually going to listen to it and say, he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things you mentioned about how he talked about his characters and like why he's drawn to the baddies, or at least that's what we know him as. And he says a lot of that comes from, it's not whether they're bad or good or anything like that. It's what's behind their character. And a lot of these characters he's played are self-made men. They work hard. Yes. And he believes in hard work and the power of getting yourself to where you want to be. He said that for the longest time he felt like he didn't deserve to be on the stage with some of these other greats that are on screen and in video games and stuff like that. But he got to the point where he's like, no, I do deserve to be there. I will be there and work with them. I can contribute to this this thing that we're creating. And he's all about equal contribution and stuff like that. And he even went into how his next role that he's excited for is that he's playing an everyman. He's like, that's something that everyone can relate to. They're all just working to, to live and to get to the next day. So I think it's really cool to see how much he honors hard work and how much he believes that anyone can do something that they want to, as long as they put that work and time in. So it was really cool.
Yeah, and I found, I think we actually talked about this, that he has 50 plus years of experience, but only just recently he's gotten the clout, I guess, or the platform to speak, and has a bigger fandom and more people following his work. So he is given a stage now that he can say these things that he's learned over this like mass. Yeah, he's been given this stage to walk back and forth across, stamp his foot, and say his things, because he's built up all of this knowledge over the years, and all he wants to do is share it. And we're talking about all these hilarious but incredible quotes that he has said. One of the ones that stuck with me, and I have already been reminding myself every day since seeing him speak, was what we resist persists. And wow. I like that. I just got chills.
Yeah, I got chills.
I got chills too.
Yeah.
So like, it's this idea of, these things that happen to us that maybe we don't want to have happen, or things that make us feel uncomfortable. If we keep resisting those things, they will persist and continue to hack away at us. But if we accept those things, go, you know what, this makes me uncomfortable, but I'm going to take it in and I'm going to deal with it, and we'll move on. And those things become a lot less annoying and weigh us down a lot less.
Working past it, yeah.
Yeah, I found that so relatable, and it's so usable in any situation anybody would experience in a day.
I'm not sure if he has, but he should write a book. I think he should write all these things down in a book.
Yeah.
I also want to just shout out the sign language interpreters. Just sign language, signing with just as much passion as Giancarlo himself, I think, is not an easy task when you have him up on the stage walking back and forth. So shout out to both of them who are on the stage with him, just keeping up and being able to sign all those inspiring words.
One of the coolest things about Fan Expo that I find is different than some of the other conventions we've been to is that, like the Star Wars Celebration and San Diego Comic-Con, they're bringing out the casts of these shows and the directors, and like everyone only gets one time to speak and share their thoughts. So what's really cool about this is that a lot of these panels that we're going to were just one-on-one with the actor or voice actor and talking about their experiences. So it's really cool to get these deep dives into how this one person thinks, as opposed to the other panels where they're kind of drowned out by the rest of the cast. So it was that is one of my favorite things about Fan Expo, and I kind of hope it doesn't change, and that we continue to get these one-on-one conversations that I think are much more valuable to these actors, because they can share more of their story and what they believe in.
Or give us both, like they did for this Fan Expo. They gave us all one-on-one conversations with each of the Hobbits, plus a reunion show that was a ticketed event, if I'm not mistaken. So, again, I think that a balance of it is great. But to the point of what you're talking about, to have these moments to listen to each of these people talk about what went into playing the characters that they played. I love this little tidbit in Giancarlo's of how he designs a backstory and keeps it for himself. I love that that's like at least a technical note that we can come to understand about how Giancarlo builds his characters and makes them who they are, and how he's able to present himself. He has figured out their story, right? Like he talked about Gus's past. And again, if we didn't have this one-on-one, we wouldn't have learned that sort of thing about his method of how he builds his characters.
And even in the biggest of franchises, where maybe he's not even allowed to necessarily outright define the background of a character like Moff Gideon, he still finds ways
he has enough to go
right,
off of.
and they can't explain every part of that character's life, so he still finds ways to fill those in for himself to really inform the character. It was I still get chills thinking about what he was going off on.
Yeah. And before we move on to talk about our final panel of the weekend, I just want to say, I mean, he did answer some of those nerdy questions, and for one of them, we got a very strong "Long live the Empire," and then a second one, as he was implying that we haven't seen the last of Moff Gideon for sure. I think that was a cool enough of a teaser for me to be excited again for his character and for the coming seasons of Mandalorian.
Yeah, I think we're gonna hear him say that in season 3.
Oh.
And with passion. So I think very much so that's either that's the hint or the Empire is going to long live. But I think we'll hear him say that. I think that's the likelier thing. So yeah, I love that he gave us at least that.
So
I was like, oh,
so good, so good. Well, and again, I think it's so exciting to see such an incredible talent in, I think, one of the biggest franchises in the world. But we also, for our final panel of the day, got to see someone who I think is also in one of the biggest franchises in the world and is such an incredible talent and has since moved on to do just so many interesting roles. And of course, that is Elijah Wood. We got a chance to see him, and he came out, and like, I love immediately again, Sam Meggs, shout out to Sam Meggs for just instantly bringing up gaming and just let's just sit here and talk about video games. And they did. And like, you've got all these
pretty
like
much
elves,
the whole time.
all these elves and hobbits and like people in armor, like sitting there like, talk about Lord of the Rings, talk about Lord of the Rings. And he's going off on his love about Sim Tower and discussing about like how he sold turnips to somebody on Twitter in Animal Crossing, and his love of Annapurna and the game Stray. He knows his stuff, and he's been involved in video game development and working with Tim Schafer. So yeah, dude, I was like, this brought my level of respect for Elijah Wood higher than I ever thought it could be, just based off of how much he knows about the video game industry. Is fantastic.
Well, again, this is exactly what I loved about Sam Meggs' approach with these panels is that she got to a personal, passionate part of a conversation with the other person. And it was so evident here with Elijah Wood and the way he just talked about gaming and how much he appreciates it and animation. And it's just like, again, to your point, it's very much, people are there to hear him talk about Lord of the Rings, but I found it so much more gratifying to hear him talk about the things that he's doing now and what he loves, rather than hearing those stories, because we've heard all those stories.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's great that they're celebrating and they can recognize, and they didn't deviate from it. They're like, oh yeah, we're not here to talk about Lord of the Rings, but it wasn't the center of topic, because they were going to they had the reunion show and all this. They got to just keep it really centered on what he's doing and what he loves, and that was great. This was, I think this was my favorite panel of the weekend, just because of how sincere and honest he was, and how you can see like the love that he has for all of these things that he talked about. It was great.
I also want to say that I want to be his best friend. I kept saying it after we saw him speak. I was like, I just want to give him a hug. I just want to be his friend. I want to talk about video games every day. And where I live, it's been raining the last couple days. And something he wouldn't stop talking about was how much he can't stand LA weather because it's just sunny every day. And one of the things he loves so much is being within nature and seeing nature change, because it's bigger than us and it's beautiful. And he was like, I miss rain. So the last couple of days I've been like, Elijah Wood would love this.
I thought it was really cool. He mentioned the fact someone brought up Spyro to him, and he just dropped the fact that he never realized how far or how much of an impact Spyro games had on people's lives, and the fact that character is almost as well recognized as Frodo. So it was very funny to see him react like that and talk about how, when he's doing some of these roles, he doesn't think about what's to come. It's a role for him at the time and a job. So it was really neat.
Yeah, it was cool as well, like, to hear about roles that I'd never even heard of before for him. Like, I think he talked about his time on Over the Garden Wall, and Megan was like, incredible. You have to watch it. You got to watch it.
Incredible.
You guys are telling me. So I'm excited to watch it now. But just how much, I think, love that he had for that series, and it's permeates through every word that he says about his time on these different shows. I'm so stoked for him to be on a second season of Yellow Jackets. I was a huge fan of Yellow Jackets season 1. It's such an incredible show. And so he's apparently going to be playing Walter, who's a citizen detective like Misty. So we know he's going to be kind of in the adult side, because that's the whole thing with the show as it goes back and forth. But I don't know, man. It's just he's apparently playing a weird and interesting character, and he is very much a weird and interesting character. So it's exciting to see that's going to carry through into his time on Yellow Jackets.
Oh, totally. And throughout this entire talk, he also kept coming back to the fact that he did all of these projects, and he does all of these projects because he loves everything about filmmaking. And no matter how he can be a part of something that he believes in, he'll do it. If it's producing, if it's acting, if it's voice acting, he talked about being a director hopefully soon. And I would love to see anything he directs, because I can't imagine how his brain would work in a great way. Like, I just found it really refreshing and amazing to see his love. Even though he's been in this industry for so long, he's still so passionate and excited, and he's very interested in indie things and small companies, and, you know, giving that platform to creative people who maybe don't have it. So I think that's really awesome.
He's humbled. I feel like he's very humbled with the opportunities that he has, and he likes working with the smaller niche weird things that are going on, because they are going to generate probably more of a buzz, you know, and he's attracted to that. And I totally agree. I think it's long overdue for Elijah Wood to be a director, to step into the director's chair, especially given his passion for the filmmaking process and being involved in wherever he can, and that willingness to be a part. And again, humbled. He has no ego. It's not like he needs to do everything, or he's so refined on his practice. He wants to be a part of creating and working and collaborating with others. And I think that's where he's an artist more than he is an actor. Do you know what I mean? Like, he is obviously an actor, and that is part of his art, but he that mentality, that process of thinking about it, it is like very much it's like a visual artist. It's someone that wants to contribute in that vein. So I love that. I love that. That's what we're learning about Elijah Wood in this panel, rather than, what was it like filming Lord of the Rings so many years ago?
Yeah. And do you how are you coping with listen, we're getting near the end of this panel discussion, but I wanted to kind of before we get to a little bit of a different type of whatcha to end this podcast, I actually want to put you all on the spot and just ask, what's one piece of advice? Obviously, go see as many panels as you possibly can, I think is a great piece of advice. But what's one piece of advice that you would want to give somebody who's listening to this part of our podcast to attend Fan Expo? And we'll have us go around round table here and just give one piece. I
have two. Quick.
Oh, extra.
Number one, eat and hydrate.
Yes.
Consistently. Because it's a lot of standing, it's a lot of walking, it's a lot of waiting. Just eat and drink a lot of water all weekend. Number two, give yourself time to walk through the areas. Like if you are interested in going through Artist Alley or seeing the, figurines and things like that. If you really want to look at people's work and appreciate it properly and talk to the people who've made those things, because all of them are willing to talk to you. They want to have conversation. Give yourself time to do that. So if there's a day that's maybe lighter on the panels, or there isn't really anybody you want to see except for maybe one panel, take the rest of that day to look at all the stuff.
Yeah, I would echo that sentiment. Plan. If you're going for a day, or if you're going for all 4 days. I think, every time we do this, we learn something new. And it's also because the expo is always changing in the sense of how things are laid out. And I think if you can plan your day around what you want to see and what other things that you want to do, that is the most effective way to utilize your time on any given day. And absolutely, eat and stay hydrated, but just stay away from the burgers and the pizza. Try to eat clean. I say just keep yourself refreshed at all possible times so that you're feeling good, because it is a lot of walking around and waiting and standing in lines, and you when you can get into sitting down and sitting at a panel, it's relaxation.
Mine's kind of on a bit more on the opposite side of that. I'm not saying don't plan everything like that. My whole advice would be don't let missing a panel or not getting to something bog you down or upset you, because there's so much to do and see at these things that even if you miss seeing one or two panels that you had on your list, because I know we had multiple that we had checked off, but some of that congestion made it hard to get around. And again, there is so much more to do that it's not the end of the world if you miss one thing or if you can't get to the other end of the artist's alley or something like that. There's always going to be another year. It's a great thing about these things is that, be flexible and be patient, because again, lots of people all wanting to do the same stuff you are. So no need to step on anyone's toes.
And I think I'll end off with the advice segment of our panel, of our podcast. I keep calling it a panel, of our podcast of just like, if this is going to be one part enabler, one part financial advice, which is pace yourself with what you buy. Pay attention to stock levels. If you're going through Artist Alley and it's these folks don't have a ton of stock of the very unique things that they've made. They might have made 10 of them. And if it's something that you're like, I really need to have that as a memory piece, as something to hold on to and to cherish from this experience, buy it. Support that artist and support the artist. I think more than your general Funko Pops and your this and that. I mean, I've seen the same super rare Funko Pops like 900 times at these conventions, so they'll probably still be there. Of course, the other, I guess this is more the enabler side of me, will also say, like, if there's a Grail there and it's the only one that's there, pick it up. You might not ever see it again, and so if there's one there and that's like the thing you came to buy, just do it. Pick it up. Hopefully you're staying at a hotel. You can leave it with the hotel, or you have a car that you can keep it in. And a lot of these, another kind of
buy more luggage.
Buy more. Shut up. We'll get to it. But shut up. But I will say, a lot of these booths would rather make a sale and hold on to the thing you bought. So even just asking them if they have enough room, hey, if I buy this big thing instead of carrying it around, can you hold on to it? And they want to make the sale, so they're probably going to do that for you. They'll write your name down. You come back with some ID or whatever, and then come pick it up.
That's advice to the big spenders that go to these conferences. those big bucks, those deep pockets.
Yeah. Well, speaking of big spenders, let's get into our What You segment. Normally with What Show we talk about what we've been watching, what we've been listening to, or reading, or gaming, or what have you. In this case, we're going to go with What You Bought. And Megan, speaking of Artist Alley, let's talk about your experience. What you buy at Fan Expo?
I bought surprisingly little, and I think that has to do with the amount of congestion that was in Artist Alley, so there was a lot of space I didn't get to go down. I also am quite proud of myself that I don't just like browse and buy everything from every artist, but when I see a piece I love, I like zero in and grab that thing. One of the first pieces I bought was a little Animal Crossing watercolor, and it was Brewster's Cafe with all of these characters with my favorite villager Fauna in it, and I had to grab it, and the artist was right there and said, that's actually my last one. So, it was meant to be. But one of my favorite things I picked up was a I don't know the dimensions, but a longer piece from Raging Ape. It is Grogu playing around with his force-wielding abilities, lifting Papa Mandalorian above his head, and it's the cutest thing ever. Yeah. I love it so much. And then, of course, we supported our lovely friend Lisa at Funky Punk Designs, and I got a couple cool pins from her. So, yeah, pretty good haul over here.
Not too bad. Justin, how about yourself?
Well, I actually did not buy a lot of stuff, but what I did buy means a lot to me. I bought 2 books from Layered Butter. I bought their Modern Horror and their Ghibli Studio as well. And I also bought their Space Jam poster. Their 24 by 36, their larger poster. I had been looking at it all weekend. I loved it. I also like larger prints. I know I don't have the wall space for larger prints, but when I do have the wall space, that will definitely be going up. It's a really gorgeous print. I love that they found a way to incorporate the Monstars into the stars. Yeah, it's art. It's art, and I loved it for that exact reason. And the books, their collections, Modern Horror and Studio Ghibli, they're a way to celebrate the art form that is cinema, and the genres and studios, and it's just they're so well crafted, and their commitment to printing unique movie posters. It's like a Canadian Mondo. We kept saying that all weekend.
They were fantastic.
So and they were really friendly. We got along really well, and like their interview is one of my favorites. Talking with Andrew there, so yeah, I'm really happy that I went there and I was able to grab those items. I also went to Toronto Collective. We all did, and I picked up some Ninja Turtle stuff. Kid Robot had a giant shredder, and they just released actually recently these 2-packs of the turtles. They're smaller than the shredder, so I got the shredder and I got the turtles. So I'm all set for my little collection. But yeah, Toronto Collective, they were great too. They were really cool, very down to earth people. They knew that we wanted to spend money though too. So, but I was surprised because like a lot of the stuff I've been eyeing. And Nate, you're absolutely right. If you eye something and you're like, I'm going to come back, I'm going to see if it's there, and if it's there, then it's fate. If it's not, then it was not.
You
fate.
got hit by that. You got hit by that with the Thor, Aztec figure. You were like, it's gone. I'm like,
no, that was Darcy.
Oh, it was Darcy.
For me, it was this. It was Stan Lee.
Right.
For me, it was the Stan Lee that I wanted. So
well, Darcy,
but I'll get it.
What is it that you picked up?
I got a whole bunch of stuff. Probably not as much as you. I think me and you are definitely the bigger spenders of the group. I just want to, before I get into my haul, I think it's funny. Justin's poster that he talked so much about, I had to convince him to go back and grab. He was like, I don't need it. I'm like, no, you want it, dude. You've been talking about it the whole weekend. So the fact that he's glad about that purchase, and I feel like that's partly my decision.
Well, because I was spent. But at that point too, like we were on the south side. And like Darcy was like, don't worry, man, we can go around. We'll walk around. It's faster. I'm like, yeah, you're right. If we walk around, we're going to go in, do it, and get out. And we did it in under half an hour. Yeah. Right. And I was just concerned that it was going to take another hour for us to get through that. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that. But it was very smooth. So I'm glad we did. We hit up both Layered Butter and Toronto Collective. And I was like, wow, I got two things, man. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, and
Thanks
the
for enabling my spending.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. If it's not Nate, it's me. But yeah, to talk about what I got, I also picked up the Ghibli book from Layered Butter, and again, I got home that night. I think I bought that the first day we were there, me and Justin on the Thursday, and I immediately flipped through the books and was like, I gotta watch some Ghibli now. So I went back and I'm on my third Ghibli movie since the con has ended, because that book has just inspired me to go back and watch these movies I've loved since, when I was a kid when I first watched them. Outside of that, though, I picked up stuff from Raging Ape. I got a cool Eternity canvas painting there, as well as one of my favorite things I picked up was from the Collective as well. I believe, Nate, you got the colored version of the Gugimon Chop Chop, where it's a nice artist vinyl piece, and I think it'll be really cool to throw it kind of hiding on my Disney shelf, because it's not quite Disney, but you can tell it's inspired by all those classic cartoons and stuff like that.
Yeah, what I love about it too is that it's in a golfing pose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and Darcy is definitely a golfer.
It fits my family to a T, because he's golfing with an axe, and I feel like half the time out there we feel like we could do some damage with an axe.
Yeah, you're hacking away out there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the Series 2 Deathstrokes Murder Pants is what it's called. Although I think you got the 50 Shades version.
Yes, yes, I did.
Very cool.
Last time we went in 2019, we spoke about how we visited Miguel Molina and bought a lot of his prints and pins. And this time I managed to get back there before he sold out a lot of his new One Piece series pins. So it's some nice big character pieces for the One Piece fandom, obviously. And the pins are so cool. I had to pick up 3 of them, and I learned that he was releasing another Kickstarter, so I backed that night as well. So yeah. Other than that, I just got a whole bunch of prints from Artist Alley, a couple cool Digimon ones, an Adventure Time piece to hang above one of my Adventure Time statues. So good day in Artist Alley for me.
Totally. Yeah, I kind of everywhere we went, I might have picked up a thing or two. I think for the Toronto Collective, I picked up a few pieces. One of them being the Tech 63 Sketchracha Martian figure by Quicks. They do these figures that are kind of all in the same pose. They're kind of wearing a hoodie. They look really dope. They've got like sort of a skull face. They look absolutely incredible if you look them up. But the one that I picked up this time around looks like a sriracha bottle, which is just such a fun colorway, and it's sitting up already with my Boba Fett one from last year. I also picked up and convinced Darcy to get into MetaZoo, which is a card collectible game that was like on a Kickstarter that I found randomly, and it's kind of like a nostalgic, almost Pokemon / Magic card art style, but like the vintage art style, and they're first editions. So, you know, that means if they go far, if they go up there, we got some pretty rare stuff on our hands. So as soon as I showed Darcy, he's like, I gotta go pick some of those up. So I immediately got them.
Yep,
I got them. I also picked up one of the Serial Killer series by Ron English, which is Captain Cornstarch, because I'm a huge Captain Crunch fan, and so he has all these really horribly obese figures that represent our favorite childhood cereal mascots. So I had to pick that one up as well. But yeah, I also picked up some stuff from Layered Butter, and I picked up they had an art print there that was exclusive to the con that was like a Scott Pilgrim poster, but done in the style of like an old Nintendo video game, which is so cool, and I just absolutely love it. And then yeah, I think other than that, I'll shout out Lisa at Funky Punky. I got this really dope, it's like a rupee keychain, and then it had like different items from Zelda on each sort of section of the keychain. And she told us that, her brother really wanted to do a keychain, she really wanted to do pins, and then they sort of collabed and just made them both happen. And apparently she did really well with them. So yeah, we'll have links to a lot of these things in the podcast notes. I'll leave that. I'll just give Justin more work to do that. Otherwise, that is it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed This Week in Geek and our coverage of Fan Expo Canada 2022. If you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this week's news or any of the coverage of Fan Expo, or just to ask us questions about Fan Expo, I'm going to go ahead and just fan it over. I'm going to use a fan. Yeah, I'm fanning it over to Justin to tell you how you can reach us.
I am receiving your fan. They can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or they can reach out to us on Twitter at geekcentricyt or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric. One more thing. Huge thanks to everyone who connected with us at Fan Expo. Thank you.
Yeah, and keep in mind, we have a ton of other great content around Fan Expo going up on YouTube. You'll see some promos on our socials, so definitely check those out. And we'll have interviews with kind of all the different groups that we spoke about, and a lot of the places that Darcy and I bought stuff from will be available for you to check out, and we'll let you know when that happens. We also have a ton of other episodes covering the latest in movies, TV shows, games, and interviews. We have interviews with the director of She-Hulk, Kat Coiro, as well as the head writer, Jessica Gao, where Justin sat down to discuss the various ways in which they've implemented their own experiences into the show. So you can check that out, and all this content on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. Also, if that's not enough interviews for you, we had the opportunity to sit down with Get Her Done, Larry the Cable Guy, or Daniel as is his real name, and we got to chat with him regarding his time playing Mater in the upcoming Cars series called Cars on the Road, coming to Disney Plus on September 8th, and look forward to. We'll probably put out a review for that one as well sometime pretty soon. And we also have reviews, spoiler-free reviews for different series like Marvel's I Am Groot, Netflix's Day Shift, the movie Day Shift. We have a review for The Sandman from Netflix, Skydance Animation's Luck, Prey from Hulu and Disney Plus, and all sorts of fantastic reviews and coverage to come. We've got a lot of stuff coming up down the pipeline that we're already all getting. I'm already getting hot and bothered thinking about all the stuff we're going to get to do. So definitely check those out. Hot and bothered because of the weather, guys. Don't get it. Don't play it wrong. Okay, don't be gross. Don't be gross.
Sure.
But we also have our weekly watch club where we break down and give our theories weekly for the latest Marvel or Disney Plus series or just shows. With our current one for She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, with episode 3 dropping, I guess, tomorrow. If you're listening to this on the day of release. So go give all those episodes a listen and a 5-star review if you don't mind. Megan, Darcy, Justin, thank you so much for joining me for This Week in Geek and our coverage at Fan Expo Canada 2022. And as we say, love ya.
Laters.
Bye.
Peace.